what are the easiest entry points? I mean, like, yes, you know someone and you talk to someone. What are the entry points or entry pathways or entry roles that are great for someone who's interested in skilled trades and trying to start off in Canada?
I always say the easiest entry point is skilled labor, general labor. If you see any construction company that's hiring a laborer, because when you're a laborer, you'll get exposed to all the different sub-trades in construction, right? So say you're a laborer on a commercial condo that you're cleaning up, you're just sweeping all day. Guess what? You're going to sweep. There's going to be some plumbers in the room. They're going to be doing their plumbing.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Newcomers podcast, where I explore what it means to be an immigrant, immigrants like myself. Today, I'm talking with Abu Hafejee, who does all things skilled trades in Canada, and which I think is a really interesting and important topic for we immigrants, newcomers, or anyone who's looking to try to get going in Canada, because everyone says, I want to be a project manager. I want to work in tech, but there are amazing roles in there, honestly. And I feel like it's one industry there's just a ton of misconceptions there. And part of this conversation with Abu is to say, how do we get into the skilled trades? And we'll probably just start from there. Like, how did you get into skilled trades?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. Obviously, I really appreciate being here and being able to tell my story. And not only my story, also like my family's story. I'm actually not an immigrant. My parents are immigrants, and my grandparents are immigrants. I'm born here. I guess I'm second generation, but very much grew up in an immigrant household.
Yeah.
Right. My brother was actually born in India as well, so I'm the first person in my family to be born in Canada. My immediate family.
Awesome.
But it's the reason, or one of the ways that I got into skilled trades. Actually, funny. Actually, I'm the second skilled trades person in my family. My grandfather was a tailor.
Oh, nice.
And he came from India in 1972 as a tailor, and he worked. Kind of back then they had a point system. I'm sure the people who listen to this podcast about immigration would understand the point system, which existed back in the day. It still exists in some form, but at the time he came on the point system as a tailor, and he worked for many years as a tailor. And and then my father kind of went to school here. He grew up here, and he went to college, and he worked in IT. He worked in the IT field for his whole career. And then when I was kind of like, a teenager, I was looking, a little rebellious, kind of didn't want to go the traditional route. I did well in school. I actually applied to like 7 university programs, and I got into a whole bunch of them. And then I kind of just didn't want to do it. And I really enjoyed the woodworking classes in my high school. In Scarborough, I went to Cedar Bay Collegiate, and I enjoyed the woodworking session, the woodworking classes. And from there, I kind of just was like, you know what? Like, I kind of want to do this. I kind of want to pursue this as a career. And then once I kind of thought of it, like kind of more pursuing it as a career rather than a hobby in high school, like a social club. Like in high school you can try lots of things, right? Like I played rugby in high school. I never played rugby ever again in my life, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, like, how do I actually pursue this? And I talked to my guidance counselor, some friends, people I knew, people in my community who were in the skilled trades. And then there was a pathway through the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program within the Toronto District School Board. So within the school board and the apprenticeship program, they had a partnership. At the time, it was at Central Tech School. And I went there after I graduated high school for like an extra year of high school. And then I learned about the skilled trade, about carpentry. More specifically, it was kind of like a all-in full-time school of carpentry. I was there for about 7 months, and then I found my first co-op placement through there, and then I never really looked back. And fast forward, 13 years now, and I teach that same program. I started. I teach the program at George. Now the program is run through the Toronto District School Board, the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, and the George Brown College. And I'm one of the professors at George Brown, and I specialize in that program, in the high school program.
Oh, nice. I think I'll just go straight to deep end. I'm tempted to say or ask a very, very basic question, which is like the role and importance of the trades in Canada's economy or the sector. But I think I want to kind of go and instead say, you've been there 13 years plus now, so which is quite some time, and you've seen how the industry has changed, has grown, and all that. I think the first question is there's always this thing about it's hard to find talent. One, how true is that? I see that in the papers. I want to hear from someone who's teaching. It's hard to find talent. Like, so companies need people. One, is that true?
Yes and no.
Okay,
So
awesome.
it's hard to find talent in a sense of, for example, if I'm hiring a project manager, or if I'm hiring, say, an accountant, people who are, you have a graduate pool that are accountants. Everyone's an accountant. They have the talent, they have the skill. In construction, we have such niche construction little kind of pockets where you might have the brains and the work ethic, but the talents take time. You can't just learn it overnight. You can't take a course. So you have to find the people, not the skill, because the skill is not natural to have these skills that we need to do our job. So a lot of times, like I said, like it's easy to find people, and it's hard to find people who are willing to teach the people. I would say more than anything, because if I have a small business and I want to hire someone and I do say tile work, I want someone who knows how to do tile work now. But reality is, I want to train someone. But
Yeah.
because there's a lot of small businesses, I don't have the time to train someone. Something like I do, I always try to, but sometimes I don't. I just need someone who knows what they're doing. And the problem is the people who know what they're doing, because entrepreneurship is so prominent in the skilled trades. If you know what you're doing, chances are you might be already working for yourself. So it's hard to find talent because the talent's already working for themselves. There's not an open pool of talented people who are looking for work, because it's such a shortage of work that if you have the skills and you have the talent, you'll be working already. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. But isn't
It's a
that
weird
isn't
conundrum. It's a weird like problem to
yeah.
have.
Yeah. But isn't that also a function of okay, maybe I'm just assuming okay, the assumption I'm making here is what's causing that? Because in my head is saying, oh, that's a function of because there's more jobs than the people who can do them. So it means that it is sexier for me to quickly go out and on my own than working for someone because like why should I work for someone when if I go out on my own, they're always clients, that sort of thing.
100%. That's the like why would you make 50,000 when you can make 65, right? Like
Exactly.
now is that right? I don't really agree with that because I think entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. I really do believe like it's a lot more work, and I see a lot of like crappy entrepreneurs who are great tradesmen who just can't run a good business, right? And sometimes I find myself in that kind of category where like, oh, why am I doing all this? I could just like go to work for someone else, right? But then what happens is it really does, and then they need people, but there's just so much work. There's so much work that there's room for you to be a okay entrepreneur. It's kind of like the food industry, right? Where there's like, yeah, you can make a restaurant selling anything.
Mm.
Like how many people are chefs who open restaurants? Maybe 20%, maybe 30%, maybe 50. I doubt it. If you can make one thing, if you can make jollof rice really good, you could just have a restaurant that only sells jollof rice. You don't have to learn everything about being a chef.
Yeah.
So a lot of time in construction is like, yes, you're skilled at one thing, and you're like, I need someone who can make jollof rice. But you could just be like at my restaurant, which is a whole package. But you're like, no, I'm just gonna have a jollof rice like shack,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna make 50,000 for myself instead of make you pay me 45,000 a year. So there's
And
a
have
lot of that kind of weird opportunity, and not to loop it back into Nigeria and like African food, but like it is what it is, right? Like a lot of you find a niche, you're good at it, you can make money at it, and then that's it. And then the opportunity for that person is abundant,
mm,
but it leaves me in that pickle where I still need to find someone,
yeah.
and the next person I find is going to do the same thing, or not, right? Or not.
Talking about immigrants and stuff, like our newcomers to Canada, two follow-up questions on that. Is one is how easy it is for them to get into these programs and these things that because you've been around it for a bit, so you see that. And two
So
is I've heard
okay.
someone say, sorry, I heard someone say, yeah, but then when people come in, like there's no one willing to train them or people are holding skills and so I've heard someone say that before. Actually, when I posted the article I wrote with TBDC about this industry, someone went into the LinkedIn comment and went like, well, but when you meet the people who are very skilled in these skilled trades, they don't want the newcomers and stuff like that, you know.
So I like the word you said, hoarding skills. No one's hoarding skills, but to transfer skills takes time. To transfer skills takes time and patience. So I have a company. I say I have 2 employees, right? I am working for you. I am feeding my family, this family, that family. A lot of times it's small companies, maybe maximum 5, 6 employees. If I hire someone, right, like there's no budget for, there's not, a lot of them, there's not enough overhead to like pay for this person's salary. So I would love to train someone else, but sometimes I'm like, if I am worth $50 an hour, now I'm training this guy, I have to pay him, but then I'm also not working when I'm training him. So if I could, frame a wall in an hour, now I'm with this guy, it's gonna take me an hour and a half, and it's gonna take 2 people.
Yeah.
So instead of making $50 this hour, I actually had to, it cost me $80, $90 for the same hour. So it's not that they're hoarding the skills. A lot of times the industry, because it's so watered down to small businesses, it's like, and I don't want to go back to like, it's about entrepreneurship as well. And the problem is a lot of times, same with small restaurants, like who works the counter at the restaurant? The owner's mom, the owner's daughter, you know what I mean? And it's not that they don't want to give the job to some kid in the neighborhood, but
Yeah.
sometimes there isn't the financial strain, and the budgets are tight in a small business. Like I'm sure you talk to people all over
Yeah.
about small businesses and about like like their struggle. What's their struggle is the margins are tight, and yes, the margins might be higher because our take home's higher, but like it's still, where's that money coming from? Where's the training funding coming from? It's just on me. There's no, as an entrepreneur, it's not. It's kind of my job. Whereas if you work for a big company, like, you work as a grocer at Loblaws, Loblaws can lose, $2,000 on the first month of your employment to train you. It's just some line item somewhere. Annual training budget, check. But me at Jim's Groceries, I can't afford to train you for 2 months. So it goes back to the same thing. And the thing is, it's very intensive. I can't give you a manual. Like I work for so many different construction companies. I've been on jobs. There's no manual. You just learn as you go. It's too vast. You kind of have to learn as you go, pick up skills along the way, hone those skills by practicing, by doing them, by failing. And at failing on whose dime? Your small business's dime, right? And it happens. Like right now, my employees are on a job site and they're going slow, and I'm like, oh, like I'm getting killed. Like it just happens, right? But they're learning, and I'm trying to give them more responsibility. I have like a new foreman who moved from an employee to like a kind of a crew leader, and he's struggling a little bit, like, and this is honest, and I'm like, oh, I'm losing money, but I know in the long run, sure, like maybe it'll work out in the end. But right now I'm just like, well, it is what it is. So it's not that we're hoarding the skills or whatnot. Is the skills have to be taught at who's lost? It's always the person with the skills lost, right? You teach one person a skill, but if it costs you hundreds of dollars a day, it might not be worth it for you at your margin, because you might only be working because I got a mouth to feed at home. That's great that I want to show you, but at the same time, like my wife needs me to pick up steak on the way home. We have guests
Yeah.
coming this weekend.
That is such a that is the point. Like I don't even
But
have
no
a
one, no one wants to
response
talk
to
about that. People just think like, oh, there's no job, no one wants to hire me. But like, I'm a small business. I can't afford to just hire whoever I want. Right? That's why small business have family employees. Like because they're like, well, if I'm gonna waste my time, like or lose my dollar, not waste my time. I know that this person might not leave me. That's the other thing. There's no loyalty in the construction business. I've trained countless employees and they just like up and leave. Right? Because like, are you gonna spend your whole career working for Jim's Painting Inc.? Probably not. If you get a chance to join, Mega Painting Co., you're gonna join Mega Painting Co. because there's more opportunity, more stability. So it's such a weird niche problem that me and you can't solve. And then obviously in terms of like advocacy, the advocacy groups are like, oh, there's thousands of jobs, but then yes, there are thousands of jobs with big companies, and big companies like that's kind of on, it falls onto them. The big constructors and Mattamy Homes and Alice Dawn and all those guys, they can afford to lose. But the reality is on construction sites, even on I've worked on Alice Dawn sites, I've worked on PCL sites where me and my 3 employees are making whatever we can, and someone else is making subcontract of a subcontract, and like they could afford to do, I can't. It depends where you are, and there's too many people like that in the construction sector where they can't afford to spend time on training someone and losing. Every job is so tight.
So like how do newcomers kind of get going with get into the system if you have all that?
Well, like you have to get someone to take a chance on you. Like you really do. And I always say, like even when, especially students, I talk to a lot of students, the newcomers with TBDC. We do a lot of programs with different social advocacy groups, and I always say, talk to people you know. I'm always like right now when I'm hiring, I talk to my employees. I tell my employees, hey, we need another laborer, and they will find someone themselves because they know someone, and they're like, yo, this guy's a good guy. He's not gonna leave. But the problem is when you just go to like a random company, you're not indebted to them, right? So a small company is not going to hire you if you're just like a name, right? It's really tough because of all the things I said before. So I always say, if you know anyone, talk to them. A lot of times it's very hard to relay your skills on a piece of paper, right? Like especially if you don't have a diploma, degree, nothing in construction. It's initiative and people and networking. So I always say, like, talk to people. If there's a guy in your neighborhood who has 2 pickup trucks in his driveway, who has a trailer, ladders on top of his truck, like just talk to him. He's more likely to give you a job than anyone on a resume. I have 5 employees right now. I haven't looked at a resume in maybe 7 years, right? And I have 2 Mexican immigrants. I don't speak Spanish. I have 2 employees that don't even speak any English, but it's like a friend of a friend. And they vouch for them, and they're good people. And I'm like, well, why not, right? Why not? So it's all about connections. I always say that. And like, if you're a newcomer and you know people in construction, because you will, because people do need construction workers. Like, people need laborers, and like it's okay if you're a laborer and you're part time and you don't commit to a job. You work for a bit and you leave. That's fine. But while you're there, if you make a connection, maybe you could get someone else in another job or whatnot. And a lot of times I get phone calls from like other contractors who are just like, hey, Abu, man, you know anyone who needs a job? And I'm like, oh yeah, that guy called me last week that his neighbor wanted a job. His basement tenant who, this newcomer guy who's renting out his basement, he needs a job. Let me call him and those are the jobs that last. Those are the jobs that kind of stick.
What are the easiest entry points? I mean, like, yes, you know someone and you talk to someone. But what are the entry points or entry pathways or entry roles that are great for someone who's interested in skilled trades and trying to start off in Canada?
I always say the easiest entry point is skilled labor, general labor. If you see any construction company that's hiring a laborer, because when you're a laborer, you'll get exposed to all the different sub trades in construction. Right, so say you're a laborer on a commercial condo that you're cleaning up, you're just sweeping all day. Guess what? You're gonna sweep. There's gonna be some plumbers in the room. They're gonna be doing their plumbing, ask questions, get to know people. General labor is the best job to get in, especially if you don't have any personal connections. You could really show your work ethic as a general laborer, because people want, like I always say, when I need you to show up on time, take initiative and not kill yourself. Those are the 3 things I need from you as a new employee. That's it.
That third one is very important.
No, but you see how I didn't say you need to have this skill, that skill, that skill.
Yeah.
Right? Show up on time, right? Show initiative and just be safe. Like, don't kill yourself, be safe. And I say that respectfully, like, don't kill yourself, but like, yeah, there's dangers on the job site. If I never have to worry, like, oh man, I sent that guy to get that thing, is he gonna come back with it? Or you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's a little heavy or whatnot, or like don't break anything. You're in someone's house, you're moving a ladder, through the bedroom. Don't break the window. Like, you understand? Like, don't cost me money. Like, that's the least, like, that's the biggest word, right? So if you're a general laborer and you're doing those 3 things, like, and then everything above and beyond, right? You show up on time, you ask questions, you learn. Like, say, like, you see me doing something 16 times over, like, 2 months. The 17th time, like, hey, man, can I try that? Yeah, sure. Like, oh, yeah, no worries. Because a lot of times it's not formal learning on a job site where I'm like, hey, look, you see what I'm doing? Look, this is me. Come, join me. It's not. That's not how it works, right? you're kind of just going, and it's like folding laundry. When you're a kid, your mom folds you. At some point, you have to learn.
Yeah.
But there's no time. Your mom doesn't sit you down. Your mom doesn't sit you down. This is how we fold t-shirts. This is how, you just see your mom, and then eventually you're like, I got it. Or eventually your mom's like, I'm not folding your laundry no more. You're like, okay, yeah, let me do it. And then you take the initiative. Like, oh wait, what was she doing? What was she doing my whole life? Like, right? So like there has to be some initiative taking, and I always say get in at skilled labor. Get in at skilled labor as at the bottom, general labor, and then sometimes when you're general labor on a construction site, sorry, long day. On a
Sure, makes
construction
sense.
site, you might be able to like drive a bobcat or like back up a trailer. Now you know how to back up a trailer. Now you know how to drive an excavator because someone needed someone to do something. It's funny. It's so kind of haphazard how we learn construction. There is a formal education process if you do become a licensed tradesperson, but the way in is not that. The way in is just getting informed, right? Listening to this podcast, taking a pre-apprenticeship course on the weekend, right? Like a lot of people just don't know. They don't know enough. They don't understand how informal it is. Like there's a formal side of construction is what we see, what the government says, projections of this and that, and then there's the informal side of like, hey man, your neighbor's building a fence, go help him. There's a very informal side of construction, right? And that's where the in is.
Because you know, I mean, and I think it's the same with almost every job because there's the formal side. And that's the one that everyone talks about. But when you come to the doing itself, like the doing itself is a lot of it is osmosis, asking questions, is putting the work in, is showing up. It's just being there, or else you're just talking. The other thing I was going to ask you mentioned some qualities that are like the things that people should have. Is there any other one that are like big must haves when you're trying to get
Punctuality,
in?
punctuality, punctuality, punctuality. I can't say anything else about that. Sorry. If you're not punctual, realistically, like you bring no value, right? Like the last thing I want is I give you such a menial task. You don't bring many skills to the table. But if you're not there, like what are you bringing at all, right? Like that's what I always say, especially entry level. I tell them if you're not early, you're late. It sounds so cliche, but like it's very very important you're punctual. I like we start early mornings. A lot of times you work in groups of two, so if you're not there, I can't do my job. And the last thing
Yeah,
you want is someone who gets paid a lot of money having to be sent home because you didn't answer your phone, you skipped your alarm because it's a two-man job. And your only job might be to support someone, physically, right? It's to lift material. If I gotta go up to the 22nd floor of a condo, right, with material, me and you are gonna go up together. We're gonna take up our material. But if I gotta do it 3 times myself rather than 2 times with you, am
yeah,
I gonna be as productive? No, no. And then what happens? Is it worth it? No, because now you not only lost money for the company, but lost money for this guy because he's not able to do his job. You're lifting a steel beam, a big heavy beam. I just can't do it with one person. So if you're not there, if you're not punctual, and it's not fair that you have to be on time, you have to be early. It's not fair. Sometimes people that say that like you have to be punctual, but in construction you only get paid for the time you're there. There's no
yeah,
there's no sick time. There's no like oh yeah, just like I'm gonna skip out early. It's a Friday afternoon. Like no no no. The second you stop working, the second you stop getting paid. Right? So if you show up late, like yeah, I'm not gonna pay you. You're not gonna get paid your day's wage, but also like your company's losing money, right? If you have other guys who depend on you, and that's the thing about construction, it's very individual, but it's like everyone has a job to do. So you might just be the laborer, and your job is to like put plastic on the floor, so that the next day after the new floor is installed, no one ruins the floor. If you don't show up, I have to go install the doors, but I can't walk in the house because I have boots on, I got material. Who's got to go, clean the floor? Me. And they're paying me too much money to do that. Now the company is losing money because now the doors are installed one day late. And all you have to do is put plastic down on the floor. That's it. Like that's such an easy task. But if you're not there, if you're not punctual, if you're not on time, it really delays everything. It's like a domino effect. And that's the big issue of like just be punctual. I cannot stress that enough. And ask questions, take initiative, but that's any job. Right? You want to be active, an active employee.
I mean, I agree with the punctuality thing. Actually, I mean, like you say, maybe it's not fair, but actually, maybe it's fair because for a job that is you're paid by the hour, then timing is everything. Like literally, every single second matters
How
to.
many times do you hear the term "time is money" in your life? No, in your life, right? You see it on T-shirts, on like Instagram quotes. Time is money. Like time is money. I say it all the time. Like you guys are taking too long to do this task. I'm taking too long. Like it's not worth it. When you're putting your GPS on, oh, that's too far. It's just not worth it. Like time is money in everything you do in life. Time is money. Like that correlation will always be there till the end of time. It's not only construction. Like for example, ChatGPT. If ChatGPT didn't spit it out in 30 seconds, you wouldn't use it.
Yeah.
If ChatGPT got back to you in a week, would you use it? No. Right? Time is money. That's what makes it so valuable, right? Like ChatGPT already existed, like 10 years ago. Right? Google
Yeah.
had AI learning that was, did you mean, did you mean this? Like smart ad results. It's all the same kind of process of reading what you want to think, right? It's filling in the blank.
Yeah.
Predictive text. When you type in Google, like, closest, and then it says restaurant near me, coffee shop near me. When it comes up, that's Google's been doing that for years. But the reason why Gemini ChatGPT is it's telling you instantly, right? So that time is money. Like I can't stress that enough.
Yeah. We're kind of rounding up here, so I probably have like two more questions for you. The second to the last one is like, so how does TBDC help in all of this? Like, I know you do a lot of things with them. Like, what's it like? And how does someone even start to think about it if they're saying, oh, I want to get into skilled trades and explore the explored skilled trades program?
So TBDC actually does a lot in terms of advocacy and also like introduction. So a lot of people don't know enough about the skill trade. So the skill trade is like it's something your uncle says to you, like, oh, go work construction, lots of job in construction. And then TBDC is there to fill that gap of like, what does that mean? Why is there lots of jobs in construction? What types of jobs are there in construction? How can you get started in those jobs? The TBDC gives you the resources. We have boot camps, info session. We go to shelters, employment groups, high schools, any like social advocacy groups all the time to explain to them that, hey, like these are your options, these are your opportunities, this is how you get into it. These are different avenues to get into it. Like yes, you could start with us. We could find employers. Employers reach out to us saying, hey, like we're looking for some people who are interested in being trained to get into skilled trade. Trade unions reach out to us. It's a wide variety of things we do in terms of just social advocacy for the skilled trades. Right? So it's more information based, but it's also like we run boot camps where we teach people how to use basic hand tools and get them excited about what it's like a day in the life of the skilled trades. We go to job sites, we interview companies, we post that on our socials. It's skilled trades is such like it's a mystical field sometimes. If you want to become an accountant, you go to school,
You
study
know what to
accounting.
do.
Yeah, you study accounting. It's very linear. Even like it's crazy. You want to become a doctor? Everyone knows how to become a doctor. You go to university, you apply to med school, you become a doctor. It might be hard to get in, but the line is very clear. The line is very, very clear.
Yeah.
You could just Google what med schools are there in Canada.
It tells you straight away.
Google how to become an electrician. Google how to become a plumber.
Let me even try to do that one right here.
It's gonna say start an apprenticeship. What is an apprenticeship? How do you find an apprenticeship? Right?
Gosh, I love that. So you must complete the 4-year program.
What program? There's no program.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
No, there's no program.
Job.
There's no program. But you tell any kid in Ontario, I'm in Ontario, Canadian high school, how to become a doctor, they know exactly. Even someone who has no desire, who's dropping out of high school, they will know how to become a doctor. Right? They will know because the pathway is very, very straightforward. So TBDC fills that gap, right? It's telling you, like, why am I here on behalf of TBDC, right? Because I'm here to tell you that, hey, this is the pathway. The pathway is not linear whatsoever.
Yeah. Last one is, what's hard and what's easy about working in the trades?
What's hard is the days are hard. Like the reality is, not everyone can do it. It's a tough day's work. long days, long hard days in the sun, long hard days in the cold, right? Lifting heavy, right? Now, is it overexerting to the point of like breaking your back? No way. Like, those days are so gone. But it's just like you're up and about for 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day, just working, doing. It's like imagine, you have a front yard and you're doing gardening all day. That's all it is. But it's 8 hours every single day. We have a long day of like you clean spring cleaning. The next day you're not doing it again. You're not doing it again.
Yeah.
Every day. Now, if you do it every day for 6 days, by the time the 7th day rolls in, you're used to it. It's not that hard in terms of like, yeah, you're not breaking your back. But some days are tough. Some days are so tough. You get a shipment of material. I remember I was working on a condo installing doors. We get shipments of 100 doors, 100 steel doors.
Steel
doors, yeah. Like to go into the hallways. And you got to get them all up there. They put them in the elevator. You got to move them from this skid to that skid onto this. Yeah. It's just like, it's tough. It's tough some days. And then once the doors are there, it's 100 days of just installing the trim around the door. Like you see the trim back where they're back there. You see that trim?
Yeah.
And that's easy. That's light. But you're up, you're standing up, you're on your knees. You're standing up, you're on your knees. You're doing baseball, you're on your knees all day. Like, yeah, is the ground soft? No, but you have knee pads. Like, it's just like an everyday grind, right? To go back to like something everyone can relate, you're in the kitchen, if you do meal prep on Sunday night, let's just say every day is Sunday night. You know what I mean? Every day you're doing 6 hours of meal prep.
Yeah.
Like, you're not prepping yourself for the next day so much. It doesn't matter how much you prep for the next day, there's still tasks to be done. We don't have shared Google Docs where someone else will fill in their part. Right? There's no shared Excel sheet in construction.
I feel attacked.
No, but there's no shared Excel sheet where like, oh yeah, like, like, those are you gonna fill that in. Hey, just like, we'll work on the sheet together. You can't paint a room together like that.
I feel attacked.
But you know exactly what you.
I know.
Is that a good analogy? Right? That's a good analogy. I love
That's a good one.
Right? Like if you're tasked to paint a room and someone else is painting another room, no one's gonna paint that room for you. Like it's just not gonna happen. You're not gonna control A, select all, and it just like you gotta bring the paint up to the second floor.
Yeah.
Like painting is an easy job. It's not the most like laborious, but like you gotta move paint around. You gotta we gotta change color. We gotta change your brushes. All this. But there's easy days. Painting's like an easier job, right? But then there's like spray painters who are like painting with a spray gun, and then you gotta clean the filters. Filter the paint through. The paint buckets are heavier in a commercial job. There's so many like little things where it's like it just work. It's not backbreaking. It's not like the end of the world, but it's work. It's work. You get rewarded really well. The compensation is amazing. Right? Entry level, you're looking at like $20 to $25 an hour with zero to no skills whatsoever. And going up to $50 an hour is like the average wage of a licensed skilled tradesperson down in Canada.
Yeah. So that's like about 50 by 8. That's like $400 a day if you do 8 hours a day.
Yeah, it's about $100,000 a year before taxes.
Yeah, I mean, Canadian taxes will slam into that.
You know what I mean? But then the thing is, entrepreneurship's like right here. It's at your fingertips. Whereas, a lot of jobs, like a lot of skills you have, if you have a Bachelor of Arts, entrepreneurship is so far away from you. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a math degree, like, entrepreneurship is, you could open a Kumon. How many opportunities? How many opportunities do you have for entrepreneurship, right? It's so far. So that's my, you're laughing. You like my analogies.
Oh, I do. I love them. I mean, I really, the part about sharing Google Sheets and Google Docs is so hilarious because how when we do that, we act as if we're doing some really, really serious back-breaking heavy work. We're going to share the document and we're all going to get into it, and you'll spend like 5 hours working on the document. Like, you're sitting down, sipping coffee, typing. I mean, it's still thinking, it's still work. It's still work in its own sense. But when you describe it like that and compare it to the work that you have to do, like you say, you're painting the room and all that stuff, or kneeling, standing when you're fixing the door. Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If I need a hand, if you need a hand on a document, you just like tag someone, share the document. Oh yeah, you see cell B4, like like hey, like I'm having some trouble with that cell. If I need a hand and I'm in Toronto and my job's in Mississauga, I gotta drive to Mississauga. Like it's so simple like that. I can't help over the phone.
Yeah.
Like material. It's like if the information on the cell is missing, you just find it somewhere. I gotta go to Home Depot and find the information. Like it's work. It's a work. Everything is physical, right? So it's like it takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Abu. I have one more thing for you. I always ask everyone who comes on the podcast these days one question from this book. It's called the Book of Questions. Literally has 291 questions in it, and you just pick one number and I ask you the question and you answer.
Okay. In honor of my son and daughter are 5 and 7, and their favorite numbers right now are 6, 7.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pick 6, 7. 67.
Oh, 67. Oh, okay. Oh gosh. Almost there. Yeah. If your family lived in a low-lying area like New Orleans or Miami Beach, how might it change any of your lives if you knew global warming would raise sea levels a foot each century and submerge the entire place in a few hundred years?
I think it's interesting. I was talking about this actually yesterday with someone about a cottage. They own a cottage, and every year it sinks a little, and I think it would just be like, like you have to be cognizant of it. You just have to be aware of it that like, hey, like this is my home now. And I think it actually reminds you of like just death, and how things aren't permanent. Like, well, even as an immigrant, you could relate to that. Like my family lived in India for hundreds of years, thousands of years, and now I'm on a podcast in Toronto with a guy who's from Nigeria in Calgary. And if you told my ancestors that, 100 years ago, they're
like, you're wild.
Maybe even 30 years ago, maybe even 40 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an advocate in Canada. They got this Indian guy with a big beard who's an advocate for, skilled trades in Canada. So I think you just be cognizant of where you are in life, and, that this is you today and, tomorrow, and my kids' lives are going to be different than my life. And you always have to remind them that. Like, I have young kids, so, like, you always have to be cognizant and reminding them that, hey, like today we have this nice home in Miami Beach, but it might not be here in 5 years. Just like you might not be here in 5 years, whether that means like sickness and health and well-being, but also like your life. Yeah. Maybe you're going to become an astronaut, maybe you're going to, move to Houston and then work for NASA, and then maybe you'll be in Mars,
Yeah.
And life, to go back to like, even to bring it back to skill, life is not linear, right? Skilled trades, like it's just not linear. And you have to really understand where you are in the moment. Like right now, I'm here. I am, entrepreneur. I'm a carpenter. But maybe in 5 years, I'm not going to be in the same role. Maybe I get tired of telling people to join skilled trades. Old man yelling at cloud. Maybe I'm tired of yelling at the cloud. You have to get into skilled trades.
Oh gosh. True.
So I think you just have to, like, what am I telling my family and my ancestors is, yeah, life's not linear. Like, be grateful where you are and see the pros and cons of every situation and take what you can from it, right? Enjoy the beach while you're there. Enjoy the beach in Miami. Enjoy, the swamps of Louisiana. Enjoy the seafood. Enjoy whatever, because who knows? I may not be there. That's my answer. Is that a good answer?
Thank you so much, Abu. I don't know what's good or bad. I just know what's beautiful, and this was beautiful.
Thank you so much. Is it as beautiful as a tether ball?
It is as beautiful as a tether ball. I agree. I think it is.
That's good.
Thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. One, very helpful for me, and I'm sure very helpful for anyone who's listening in. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we should do it again. I'm always available. I'm not always available. As you can tell, schedule's a little tough, but I'm available. I'm available at some time.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And please tune in. As always, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us there. Cheers. And I'm going to stop it now and let it up.